So when you use the dot notation to access a value, property, or method from an object, that's called chaining, right? So if you have this user info object here and you want to grab my age, you would go user info dot age, and that is chaining. Or if you want to go deeper to show why it's called chaining, you can grab the country by going location dot country. And now we've chained together location and country to access that value Canada on the user info object. But what happens if somewhere in that chain a property or value doesn't actually exist? What if I was to comment out this entire location subobject? Now you can see that we're getting an error. Cannot read properties of undefined, trying to read country. And that is where optional chaining comes in. Optional chaining is a way to safely access properties or methods on an object without having to write verbose statements. Let's say that we didn't know what optional chaining was or it didn't exist. There would be a couple different ways that we can ensure we don't error out when trying to get to that country value. One could be you could go if it exists, if the location exists, so user info dot location. If that exists, then try to console out user info dot location dot country. And here you can see, let me comment that out. In this case, we didn't get any console log because user info dot location doesn't exist, so we never reach line 17. Another way you could do it is you could have, like, say, a const if you want to create an expression. And it could be something like this: user info dot country and. So if user info, or sorry, not country, but rather location, if user info location exists, and user info dot location dot country. And then I could console log that out. And that's going to come up as undefined because user info dot location isn't true. Therefore, we never got to the point where user info location country could be accessed, leaving that value empty, and an empty constant that hasn't been defined or initialized in any way is going to be undefined. So this is a little messy, and if you have a lot of deeply nested objects, which sometimes in data and API sources you do, this is a really messy way of accessing those properties or methods safely. And that's why we have optional chaining. So optional chaining is using the question mark and then the dot together. So instead, in this situation, what I could do is replace country with user info dot location, and then instead of going straight to the dot, I add the question mark and then the dot and then country. And what's going to happen is this is not going to error out, and I'm just going to get undefined, and we can continue as normal. Now if I bring that back, there we go. Now that's still working. The question mark resolved. It's like, yes, location does exist, and we're able to access the country value here. This also works for methods or functions that are inside your object. Let's say we have a method or function called slogan in here, and it returns a string huzzah. Now, if I want to access this, let's console log that out, user info dot slogan. That's going to get me huzzah. But what happens if that slogan doesn't actually exist? Now we see that user info dot slogan is not a function. It's erroring out. In this case also, you can use optional chaining. So again, before calling the function, so before those two braces, we're going to add question mark and then the dot. So in this case, what it's going to do is going to check if slogan exists. And if so, then it will call it. Otherwise, it won't call it. So now you see it's not erroring out and we're just getting undefined. If I bring it back, we get huzzah. It also works for arrays. So here you can see that I have a popular post array inside this object. And let's say that theirs doesn't exist, right? So if I was trying to access that very first ID in that first object, I would be like popular posts dot, or sorry, not dot, but rather the first index, so 0, and then dot ID. And this is going to error out because we can't find it. But we can make that safe by saying, hey, let's check if the popular posts array even exists. So after popular post, but before accessing the index, we can add, again, the question mark and the dot. And now it's just going to come out to undefined and not error out. Once we bring it back and those values and properties actually exist, the question mark is totally fine, it resolves correctly, and we're able to access that ID 23. So that is how optional chaining works.